made light, and you turned it to flame.
I gave love, and you sold my name.
Whoa, world full of noise, I can't hear peace. Built with my breath, now they beg for release. Golden crowns turn to iron greed. Saints in the dirt.
It's a calorie tracking app. Why not you? Be completely honest with yourself. What's holding you back? Are you lazy? Do you not
Where's
want to
my
learn?
microphone?
You have to answer these questions for yourself. Are you not putting in the time? Did you fail and not pick yourself back up and start again? I'm not a genius, and my success didn't happen overnight. I failed over and over and over again. Listen to yourself, bro. If you knew how much potential was
Good morning. So we're back. It's still cold outside. How many of y'all got up to go to work today? You know what I'm saying? If you're coming down Singing Hills, make sure you be careful. The road is still iced. It's still iced out like Young Jeezy and Gucci Mane. It's so icy outside. It's like the Gucci Mane and Jeezy beef outside. It's so cold out there. It's so cold in the D. But we're just gonna be kicking it here. You know what I'm saying? We locked in place. This is like a lock-in. I remember doing lock-ins. When's the last time somebody did a lock-in? I think that would be dope to have. Let's do a lock-in.
Every person you have ever met will be 6 feet.
I want to do a content lock-in. Oh, man. But anywho, I made a post this morning, right? And I was asking, what does it mean when you have a family member or something? Dang, hold on, let me turn this company down. What does it mean when you have a family member who asks you to assist them on a business venture and you help them, but when it's your turn, they stop answering your call? What does that mean? Does that mean that they wanted to just use me for whatever they wanted to use me for, and they don't want to be used for, want to be useful? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. I found it kind of weird. Like, my cousin Jay had started a credit business a few years ago. He always get involved in a lot of different endeavors and stuff like that, and I be wanting to see him win. But he at certain points of life, he was asking me to help him with it. And then when I lost my job in like 2021, he was like, come over here and do the credit thing. And so I tried to do it, did it for a couple months. Wasn't really my forte. I'm not a salesman. I don't know how to sell nothing, right? I just know how to create. I don't know how to sell, right? That's a skills. I'm not gonna say I don't know how to sell. It's a skill set that I haven't put a lot into, because I do things different. But once I came up with the PDF hustle and I started understanding the digital game on a whole new level, all of a sudden, phone calls, like, don't get the calls no more. They don't even answer my calls, so I don't know what that is. Like, I don't think that I did anything wrong. Well, I did tell them that I believe in him more than he believed in God. That's, it's a little different. I might make him mad. You know what I mean? But when I tell people that I believe in you more than you believe in God, it's because you're leaving something. Like, you're not leaving it all on the field. You're not leaving it all on the court. You're not leaving it all in the courtroom or wherever you at. Whatever your profession is, you're not leaving it all out there. And that's why it's so easy for me to say that I believe in a person more than they believe in God, and I believe in God more than anybody on the planet. So, with that being said, I think that could easily rub somebody the wrong way when you tell them that, hey, I believe in God more than you. Plus, I believe in you more than you believe in you. Plus, I believe in you more than you believe in God. It'll make people get a little, get a little shaky. But, it was just something that crossed my mind this morning, and I was just wondering, just to see how people would perceive it or tell me what that is. That's just one of the thoughts. But we're gonna keep coming up with the thoughts. We're still gonna keep putting in the work, regardless of if they fuck with you or not. You keep putting the work in. You never stop grinding. You never stop putting the effort in. You keep going, because eventually, when you bust through the fifth ceiling, people, and the people I'm talking about are the ones that's closer to you, the ones that you try to get to help you, that you've helped before. All those people, they're going to be knocking at your door. They're going to want a piece. They're going to want in. And then that's when God is going to hit you with the ultimate test. Do you let them in, knowing that they didn't help build it? Or do you decline it? How about this? Even the same person that you assisted, that is not assisting you on your business ventures. The people that, the mutual friends that y'all have that support his business and don't support yours, do you keep them around? Because what I'm starting to find out is, if a person likes somebody more than they like another person, they're going to support the one that they like the most. I never understood how people don't understand how business works. I never understood that. Business has no feelings. People bring feelings into business, but business has no feelings. And I be trying to understand where that comes from. Where does that come from? Who told y'all that you can bring your bitch ass feelings to the business world? Business is cutthroat. Business is always cutthroat. What's going on, Bill? So my question is, do you allow somebody that you offer the opportunity to, that decline the opportunity, once you get going and once you get it moving and grooving? You know how people is. People are bandwagoners. So do you allow them into the business even though they declined it the first time? You know, it's kind of weird. And another thing is, could you date somebody who has retarded children? I've dated somebody who had a retarded kid before. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. Doesn't mean that that retarded baby don't need love. That retarded baby needs a lot of love. But it's very difficult, man. Hold on, let me get these dogs. Anywho, like I said, could you date a woman who has retarded children? Or could the women date a man who got retarded children? Like, there was a chick on my page. She said that she dated a dude who had 2 Down syndrome daughters. Now, Down syndrome, to me, now let me get this clear. I don't consider people who have like Down syndrome and things of like physical hindrances. I don't call those people retarded, right? I call retarded because retarded was a real term. Y'all, it's a lot of these grown folks outside are retarded. Like, they can live on their own, they can take care of themselves on their own, but they retarded. So that's why I was asking, because y'all be with somebody who got retarded kids. Like, they kids, they probably got behavior issues. Behavior issues are you retarded, and we all got a little bit of retardation on them. We are part of the spectrum, so to speak. But yeah, and my question is, why do people get so upset with that word? What's wrong with that word? One of these dudes that I got on my page, he was like, You definitely can't date a woman if you're calling their kids retarded. Why can't I? And you didn't even answer the question. You didn't even answer the question as a man. Could you do it? I've done it. I didn't. Now, granted, I didn't know she had retarded kids. I didn't know she had retarded children. But it's all good. Which one is it? Is that my shit playing? Oh no, that's part of this YouTube video. I thought this was you know what? I need to do my class. I need to do my coursework. You see, while y'all over here just be out here doing nothing, I be out here going to class and getting lectures and getting studies in, so I know how to deal with these people and their retarded kids. I listen to the boring stuff that y'all don't want to listen to. Where it go? Psychology, MIT, yeah. But anywho, top of the morning. I hope y'all not going out there going to wreck your cars. I seen a whole lot of car accidents this morning. Shit, that tablet just died. It's all good. MIT courses. Here we go. MIT courses. I'm gonna have to do the physics ones. I need lecture. Oh, here we go. Lecture 2. Lecture 2. Rewind. See, this is the part of the game that people don't like. This is the part of the game where you have to get intelligent.
The following content is provided under a Creative Commons license. Your support will help MIT OpenCourseWare continue to offer high-quality educational resources for free. To make a donation or view additional materials from hundreds of MIT courses, visit MIT OpenCourseWare at ocw.mit.
Introduction to Psychology. John Gabrielli. What was that say?
At mit.edu.
This is Lecture 2, Science and Research. Some content in this video is not covered under the Creative Commons, whatever it was.
So today I want to talk with you about how it is that we can do research of a scientific kind for something as complex as human behavior. As opposed to things that you
research
measure out
methods.
in space or test tubes or under microscopes. People are complex organisms, right? And so to do research on them, to understand human nature, how the mind works, how the brain supports it, is a challenging story. So the usual thing is an experiment. You have a group of participants, and we'll talk about that. But in the reading for today, and I know for the first time we've done this, so you may not have read it, but if you have, that'd be great, is a kind of another thread of the kind of way that people are studied, which is dramatic individual stories, case studies, single stories that are illustrative of something that we think are broader principles. And a lot of our biggest discoveries, and we'll come to that later in the course, have been made on very unusual single individuals who turn out to have a lesson that's pretty broad, for example, for the organization of the human brain. So in the Oliver Sacks book, there's a story about Donald. And what did Donald do that got him?
Yeah, we're going to rock with the blue. Rock with the blue.
Yeah, he murdered his girlfriend while he was on PCP.
He was on PCP?
He's in a psychiatric hospital. They try hypnosis to help him remember it. He says he doesn't remember it. Many of you may know that an astounding number of criminals under interrogation tell you they don't remember anything about the episode involved, right? So people are suspicious at first for many reasons, because the easiest thing to say is, I don't remember what happened, and then you can't catch yourself in a lie or any complexity, right? Because you don't remember what happened. And sometimes you don't remember, and sometimes you do. But in this case, they tried hypnosis. That doesn't help. He's in there for 4 years. And then he knows conceptually that he killed his girlfriend. And he says, I'm not fit for society. He knows it's a terrible thing he did. But it's kind of like an intellectual knowledge, right? It's not a feeling. It's not a memory. And then he goes biking and something happens, which is he gets hit by a car. So there's what appears to be a drug-induced amnesia of the original murderous episode. He gets hit by a car. He has a severe head injury. He's in a coma for 2 weeks. He has left-sided weakness as he comes out of it, which means the biggest injury was in the right side of his brain. Weakness and numbness. And he has frontal lobe contusions. He has injury and bleeding around the frontal lobes, the cortex that sits in the front of the brain. But now a remarkable thing happens. It's as if two insults, two wrongs made a right. The first wrong being the PCP, the second wrong being the accident. And now what happens? He remembers in vivid and florid detail the horror that he actually committed this murder. It's as if two insults to the brain, one drug-induced, one a focal injury, repress the memory and then unrepress the memory. And one of the first things they have to do is discover whether he really has his memory or he just thinks he has his memory. And how do they figure out, to their satisfaction, whether it's a really recovered memory or a fabrication of his mind? Right, that's really important. He remembers details of the murder that are not publicly available, that were not in the information that was given to him. That's a really huge issue in these kinds of memories. So it's a really recovered memory, not an inadvertently fabricated memory. And they discover he has deep seizure activity in his limbic structures. The parts of his brain that are involved in emotion are having seizures. So in epilepsy, neurons are firing for no good reason. And that's part of his disorder. They give him medications to help with that. But here's the question for you for a moment to think about. And it's now such a common question because our society is moving that way that it's on many TV shows. I see it like every couple of weeks. There's a Law and Order episode that has something like this, which is the more you know about the biology that underlies really criminal, terrible behavior, should that be a cause for understanding it or not? Okay, so in this case, he took the drugs, he killed the person, you think he's pretty responsible. But how about somebody who kills somebody, and it turns out, in such a case, a man with no history, a grown man with no history of criminal activity of any kind, shoved his wife out of a high window to her death in the course of a standard argument. All right? Then they discovered that he has a big tumor growing in the basal part of his frontal cortex. Now, is the man responsible for what he did? It's a really interesting question, right? And the more we understand about the neuroscience of our brains, what makes us do things, which lets us control impulses, what makes us murderous. There's a guy, Kent Keel, University of Mexico. He's driving around in a big van with an MRI scanner, and he goes from penitentiary to penitentiary, and he images the brains of serial murderers, of psychopathic murderers, okay? And he's getting things that are pretty systematically different about their brains. And the question is, what does that mean? Does that mean those people were prone to do it for reasons of their early environment or genes or some incident that happened? And if that's the case, do you forgive them differently? Should we have a different moral code or legal code as we discover the brain basis for some of these things? Or is that irrelevant? What counts as the action? So this is the kind of thing you could think about, maybe discuss in your section some. The more we understand about the human brain, the more we'll understand about behaviors that we find terrible. And what does that mean about legal and moral decisions about how to punish those or think about those? So that's coming in your lifetime, because there's steady progress on this. And understand how to think about that is a really big question. So I'm going to talk with you today about research in psychology. And a funny thing about psychology, and I'll come back to this, is everybody is an amateur psychologist. They have to be. If you deal with people, you're an amateur psychologist. Moreover, we live in a world with Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Phil, right? So in case you're only an amateur one, you hear all kinds of stuff, newspaper, internet, magazines, everywhere you go. Friends will tell you stuff about psychologists have found this or psychologists have found that, right? So you have your own intuitions to deal with people in everyday life. Here's a kind of a sentence from Time magazine, that drives psychologists crazy if you take it seriously. So here's this literal sentence. Almost half of children of divorces enter adulthood as worried, underachieving, self-deprecating, and sometimes angry young men and women. Okay. So that sounds kind of like a psychological study of some kind of, right? Somebody who wants to argue about the importance of divorce and breakdown of the family, this is the kind of thing. So let's think about this for a moment. Almost half of children of divorce enter adulthood as worried. Are you guys worried about global warming? A little. Are you worried about peace in the Middle East and how that influences the Middle East and the U.S.? A little. Are you worried about an economy that may not have jobs waiting for you? A little. Okay. Who's not worried? A little bit of the time. So it doesn't even tell you that half of children in the world, for example, are who come from families without divorce, right? Because that's the only relevant question. It's not, are people worried about stuff? Underachieving compared to what? How would you prove somebody's underachieving? Scientifically, okay? I mean, most of you probably have had days where you've underachieved and days where you've achieved pretty well. But how would you measure and prove that? Self-deprecating. Well, sometimes we think it's actually kind of nice if a person's modest. Okay, what's the difference between modest and self-deprecation? And I like this one. Sometimes angry young men and women, right? I mean, it's, are you sometimes angry about something or another? Okay, and if you are, does that tell us that society is breaking down and your parents did something bad? That you're sometimes, who as a human being is not sometimes angry? So here's a kind of psychology-sounding sentence on a serious topic, which is, what is divorce, consequences of divorces in families, and, should we be thinking about things that encourage marriages to stay stable and things like that. But there's really no information in it at all. So from a research or science perspective. So I'm going to talk about a little bit, just reminding you what science is. We're at a university, obviously, that thinks about science and does science all the time. Remind you of what an experiment is, a very brief history of psychology experimentation, and then walk you through a few experiments that I find kind of interesting, and then some topics related to psychology. So let me start with this. How do you know what is true? How do you know what is true that you take to be true? What is the answer? Everybody's looking all like, how do I know? Please tell me. Okay. Well, when people try to analyze this, and you can think about it for your own self, one of them is authority. Parents, teachers, textbooks, scientists, professors in courses, we tell you this is the truth, right? And if you remember the truth correctly, you get an A. So, authority is a huge source. I mean, right? It would be costly to go around and kind of have your own idea about everything. 12 inches in a foot, I'm not taking that piece of information without skepticism, right? I mean, you couldn't lead your life without kind of believing a lot of stuff, but you don't want to believe everything, right? Just because you hear it, repetition or tenacity. You hear something often enough, and people tend to believe stuff. A priori, what's reasonable? You think things through just by thought. What's possible, rational, and so on. And then maybe a fourth brand of knowledge to something is scientific analysis, where we have hypotheses and we test them in some version of experiments or at least correlations among data. Now, there's another view, which is kind of that whatever we think makes something science is what the scientific community decides as a community is true, right? Roughly speaking, that is the mainstay of faculty at places like MIT and Stanford and Harvard and so on, and around the world at universities tell you this is how science works. You go, okay, that's how science works. And I remember some years ago there was a lot of excitement about a satirical article written by a scientist where he said, oh, this is all just societal authority. The scientists tell you what's true just because they believe in it, just like a sports writer says the Celtics are the best. You don't really think that the sports writer knows scientifically the Celtics are the best, right? Okay. So he wrote a paper saying that gravity is simply a consensus among scientists and a particular view they're foisting on society, okay? But none of us would want to really go up there and jump out the window going, well, gravity is, one person's opinion, and here's my opinion, right? Okay. But it's kind of interesting because, for those of you who go to medical school, for example, you learn lots of procedures and so on that the medical community believes is true, where there's not much scientific evidence behind it, but they have to use it every day. So, you're used to hearing about the scientific method. It applies to psychology in many ways, just like it applies to chemistry, physics, or biology. We have to test things that are falsifiable. We have to deal in probabilities of outcomes in terms of statistics in some sense. The kinds of data we can have are descriptive or correlative or experimental. I'll talk about those in a moment. We are always trying to disprove the null hypothesis statistically, as you know. We can't prove that something is true, but we can prove that it's not true. And then finally, like all fields of science, today's most exciting breakthroughs are tomorrow's things that have to be apologized for and rediscovered, right? Okay? I mean, what makes something breaking science is not that it's known with certainty. What's known with certainty is what's in your textbook, kind of. What makes something breaking science is it moves the field forward. So what's the difference between the cutting edge and the bleeding edge is a very close call. So here's a cartoon that says he's constantly proving his experiments wrong, okay? And the guy's kind of glum looking over. He's proving the null hypothesis to be correct. Now, that's sort of funny for scientists. But it's sort of funny in the sense that, no, we don't really go around going, I hope, with all my heart for this research project I've worked on for the last 5 years that it will prove the null hypothesis. Right? There's no difference between things I'm studying. In fact, scientists, like all humans, have agendas and hopes, and like everybody else. So they observe, hypothesize, experiment, assess data, and it doesn't always go perfectly, right? And the last thing I want to say is I'm going to emphasize today a scientific approach to the human mind and behavior, but of course, there's many other paths of knowledge for important things in our life, religion, philosophy, arts, and so on. There's many things that science cannot address, and I don't want to pretend that it does. That's not a problem too much when you think about chemistry. It's kind of an interesting problem when you think about psychology, because when we think about happiness or values or things like that, those topics cut across psychology and things like religion, philosophy, and topics like that. So what makes something an experiment is you have to have sort of two things conceptually, especially. The dependent variable, what you measure, the outcome, and the independent variable, what you vary. Once you have those things in an experiment, you're kind of in an experiment in a broad sense. So in psychology, it took a long time. It wasn't until the 1800s that people had kind of an approach to doing experiments in psychology and figuring out, for example, how to use the simple measurement of time to measure how long a mental operation lasts in your mind. So that's pretty cool. If you were to come to a fifth grader and say, how would you measure not a brick or a stone, but how long a thought takes, you'd say, well, that'd be pretty hard. But it turns out it's not as hard in a simple way. So Wilhelm Wundt, who big figure in psychology, first textbook in psychology, first laboratory in psychology, did the following test of mental chronometry, simply measuring how long it takes you to do things. Took about 1/10 of a second by that measurement. So all of a sudden, you could start to measure in an objective sense how long a mental operation takes in your mind. Then psychology went a lot of different directions. A famous one from Titchener, who worked with Wundt, developed the psychology department at Cornell, was introspection. Look inside yourself and think very carefully when you think about a topic. How do I think about it? That lost its way as a scientific method. The trouble is, one person thinks one way, one person thinks another way, and you can't really settle it, right? So it's introspection about your thoughts is a private process. It's not a public measure that you can exchange among scientists, like time or measurements. But we still introspect a lot when we think about psychology, whether it feels right to us, what are the questions to ask. It's still just being human. You can't help but introspect about psychology topics. In the U.S., there was a sort of a huge response to introspection as being too loosey-goosey. One famous name in this is John Watson. He said the mind is unobservable, so we can only study behavior, things that people do, actions they take. Their mouth moves, their hand buttons, presses, and then we identify what in the environment influences those behaviors. The principles of the mind should be similar between animals and humans, and that the only thing a responsible experimental scientist can do is relate environmental factors to actions. And so there's a stimulus, and you can control the stimulus as a scientist. There's a response, you measure the response, and that's your psychology experiment.
And you lie.
And then the 1980s came the cognitive revolution, partly
Mental and later neural.
after a while, to not very interesting science. That was the biggest problem. And people said, no, we can make inferences about the mind as it translates what it hears or sees into what a person does. So ideas of representations or knowledge in the mind or in the brain later on, and how that translates what's out there and how you act upon it. So I'll remind you a couple more things.
Correlation versus causation.
Correlations you can only get in an experiment, right, where you have an independent variable. Correlations you can look at all the time.
Independent variable.
Experiments only allows us to infer causation. So
age
let's
of
pick an
parent
example.
and risk
When I read
for
slightly
disease
relevant.
in child.
So age of parent and risk for disease in a child. So most of you are young enough that you're not too worried about this yet, and you have no reason to be. But for those of us who are in my generation and some generations back, many people are postponing childbirth as they do their careers and complete different tasks.
Pause.
And they're getting old.
Pause. Look at there. Look at. Let me change this lighting. Because, darkness is only for some. Sometimes we just need the light. But it got to be the right light. We're going to use this light, but we're going to dim it a little bit. We're going to dim it down just a little bit because, yeah, here we go. We're going to dim it. We're going to keep the brightness See, because I'm gonna cut that light up. Yeah, okay. So here's the gist of everything, right? God dang, why does my shit keep doing that? It was just paused for a second. Oh, what fell on that? Jesus. What's going on, Michelle? So, let me get back to this damn thing. Hopefully it hold my spot. Messing around. All right. Jesus. Michelle Ridge, you be coming through here and you don't be speaking. What's up with you? I just gotta know. I wanna know. But anyway, what he was saying was going on point with can you date somebody who has retarded children? Of course, like I said, people get in their feelings about the word retardation. After my tablet loads up, we gonna find out what the true definition of retarded is, because a lot of y'all motherfuckers retarded. So after we finish the lecture, we're gonna do our Googles, and we're gonna understand that words have meaning. This is what people don't understand. Words have meaning, but words don't have power other than the power that you give it. So when I say, if I call a kid retarded, if the kid not really retarded, they hold on, can't connect right now. Try again. I know my internet ain't tripping. I just know that my internet looking good right now. Try again. Can't connect right now. Who done did something? Somebody done fucked up the church's money. It says connected. Who fucked up the church's money? Here we go. She said, I'm sorry, I turned away. I was trying to be strong, but strong don't mean right. I was trying to move on, but I still at nine. I lost heaven trying to keep pride. Lost the love when I couldn't confide. Because it, what is up with my shit? Jesus. Boom, boom, boom. Work. I don't. Damn. Come. Why is this acting stupid now? Don't act stupid now. Here we go. Lecture 2.
Irrelevant.
Now,
age of parent and risk for disease.
Now pause. So it says age of parent and risk for disease in child. So when I said, could y'all date someone who has retarded children? This is to get you prepared, because you wouldn't know if she didn't have any kids, if she was going to have retarded kids. But if she does, or if he does have retarded children, that means that somewhere down their line, there is a disease inside that person. Diseases don't always have to be AIDS and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And AIDS is a virus. It's not a disease. But nonetheless, we're going to get into age of parent and risk for disease in child.
In a child. So most of you are young enough that you're not too worried about this yet, and you have no reason to be. But for those of us who are in my generation and some generations back, many people are postponing childbirth as they do their careers and complete different tasks. And they're getting older, and parents are getting older and older. They're only
understand,
old, they are old.
and so, understand, the older you get, the more of a risk of your kid to have it.
That the older the mother is,
the likelihood of a disease in a child.
Syndrome. So the statistics are, if a mother's age 20 to 24, it's very rare.
It's very rare.
Down syndrome.
Over 42.
Dramatically if the mother is over age 42. So this is simple
Pause.
observation. And
Pause. It says, does age of mother increase likelihood of disease in children? Down syndrome. Mothers ages 20 to 24. They have a 1 in 1,500 chance of having a child with Down syndrome. If you're over the age of 42, you're 1 in 19. So your risk is higher when you're over the age of 40 of a mother having a child. You have a high risk of your child having Down syndrome. So for all you women, for all you mothers out there, or women who are trying to freeze your eggs or hold off on all this stuff, you have a higher risk of your child being born with Down syndrome. This is part of the reason why older men go for younger women. Cause like, one of the chicks said, she said a dude had 2 daughters who had Down syndrome. It's not because of the father. Or maybe it is. I don't know. Some of these niggas be having Down syndromes and they be out here. But nonetheless.
measurement. But it's something a lot of women giving birth in their 30s and 40s are thinking about and worrying about, and it's a thing on their mind. Up until relatively recently, men said, "Oh, it's too bad for those women, but we're no problem."
Here goes the men.
Right? So you know the movie star, right, who's 90 years old and marries a 20-year-old actress, right? You know that kind of model that you see all the time in the news, because it doesn't matter how old the guy is. Well, it turns out,
it does.
And here's some data for that.
Does age of
So here's the probability of developing schizophrenia, a disease that's typically diagnosed.
Pause.
Late.
It says estimated cumulative incidence and percentages of offsprings estimated to have a onset of schizophrenia by age 34 years for categories of parental age. You have if you're 25 and under, you have a 1 in 141 chance of having schizophrenia. If you're 25 to 29, you have a 1 in 121 chance. Then, I'm sorry, the first one was 141. The second one is 25 to 29. You have a 1% chance. 1 out of 121 people will have schizophrenia between the ages of 25 and 29. 30 and 34, you have 1 in 99. 35 to 39, you have 1 in 85. 40 to 44, you have a 1 in 90% chance. I mean, that's not 90. That's 50. You have a 50% chance. I gotta clear that up. I can't really see. $99, $85, $80, $60, or let's say $58. Let's say $58 and $47. So by 50 to 54, you have a 1 in 47% chance, a 1 out of 47% chance of having schizophrenia. What up, Key? Oh yeah, I'm just going over, this is lecture 2 of the Introduction to Psychology, spring 2011. So right now, we were just talking about the older you get as a woman, the higher risk you have if you have a child over the age of 40, your child being born with Down syndrome. Now they're talking about the schizophrenia part. As you get older, what are your likelihood of you being schizophrenic? So,
adolescence or 20s, depending on the age of the father. And you can see if the father is less than 25, it's 1 out of 141. If the father is in his 50s, it becomes 1 out of 50. A dramatic growth in the likelihood of an offspring child having schizophrenia, depending on the age of the father. Okay, so now, there's a correlation between age and whether a child expresses schizophrenia. So let's guess about the possible causes of that. I can tell you it's unknown, but let's even begin to guess about it. Let me ask you to guess about it.
You said aren't those superpowers? Those, well, schizophrenia. Well, I'm gonna find out exactly what schizophrenia is here, but to my understanding and to my knowing, schizophrenia has something to do with paranoia. To me, like everything, but I could be wrong. That's just the nigga hood education that I have. If you're paranoid and schizophrenic, those go hand in hand to me. I could be wrong. That's the reason I'm taking the course now. That's the reason why I'm learning this shit. It's 19 hours of it. I've already got like, this is the second hour, so we gonna get it. We iced in. This is what we on today. We gonna try to knock out as many lectures as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, bad sperm. Right?
Bad sperm.
Okay. For some reason, in some way, and sperm that leads more likely to be risk for schizophrenia. So that's your first intuition, and that may turn out to be right. Problematic, something problematic about the sperm from the male. Here's another one, though, and this shows you,
does age of father increase likelihood of disease in children? Age and sperm.
What's so important is this, which is, how about an alternative, which is, who marries later in life?
Who marries later in life?
Okay, maybe the desirable men are plucked off the market on average in large statistics by age 30 or something, and a bunch of us, and I'm a late marrier, limp to find some woman around the world who will accept us, okay? And finally, out of pity, some woman says, okay, you drag yourself into your 50s and I'll take you. Right? Because it's not random probably, and we're averaging over many people, but it's not random probably who marries at 25 in a given society and who marries at 50. It's not random. It could be big differences among, okay? How could we tell that difference? Maybe it's nothing to do with the sperm. Maybe it's something to do with something about the genes and environment that goes with marrying, being a parent in your 50s versus being a parent in your 20s. Completely different explanations. Someday maybe we'll know, but we don't know now, all right? So this is the limits of correlations, and both could be true. Either. Let's talk about you, all right? So let's talk about the level of stress you have and how empathetic you are on average. Your college generation relative to one's 5 or 10 or 20 years ago. So let's ask that question. Why would people want to know such a thing? Well, you might want to understand, what pressures are we putting young people under as they go through grade school and high school and college? What's the world like? Is it pretty much the same? Is it pretty much changing? Now, how would we figure that out? How would we begin to measure that? It's a very simple question. Are you more stressed than people 10 years ago at MIT, on average across the country? And are you more or less empathetic towards other people? How might one answer that kind of a question? Yeah?
The stress part, can you know a little bit about hormones to the extent that we can measure hormone levels related to stress?
That would be a very interesting path. It's a tough research path, but you're right. If we had some biological signature of stress, that would be a good one. But let's ask this question. Let's say I measured everybody in here and got your average stress hormone or something like that. Now what's my answer about whether 10 years ago people were more or less stressed? Yeah?
You could look at suicide rates.
That would be an outcome. Yeah, that would be, sadly, an extreme outcome of stress of a kind. But there's a lot of things that go in. Okay, so we have to worry about two things. One thing we know is, let me ask you another one. You could compare your level of stress to people who are 10 years older than you or 20 years older than you. What do you think about that? No. Yeah.
How much longer I got on
Oh,
this?
yeah.
Oh, my bad. I ain't meant to put that on. Hold on. Pause. Okay, so I gotta run to the store. I gotta make a store run real quick. It's 9:04. Let me run down here, walk down the street real quick, and then we are at 2311. 2311. When I come back, we'll finish this course. We'll finish this lecture. Yeah, I gotta go get my mom some cigarettes and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? It sucks being iced in. Can't get out and go do nothing. I gotta walk everywhere again. It's crazy. But yeah, y'all go be great. Go be guys and goddesses. I'll make sure I share it to you, Key, because I know you want to hear the lecture. But yeah, we're gonna come back and pick up where we left off. Go be great. Go be gods and goddesses. Remember, God loves you, and so do I. Only you can manifest what you want out of life. Go get it.